And it was only near the end of October that the seed of a song started to form. And then by the end of the month, I had a full-fledged demo that is now the last song in the album. That was huge for me because it just showed like, okay, you just focus on the work and then the outcome will hopefully happen eventually if you just keep working hard and focusing on the right things.
I want to talk about your own Ultralearning experiment. This will be a good transition back to the financial stuff as well, is that you had this music goal. It was a really, I imagine, was like intimidating to say, I'm going to become a musician. Here I go. And you were stuck and you're procrastinating. And Scott kind of helped you through an experiment you did in 2019 for 3 months. And so I was hoping you could just talk a little bit about, what Ultralearning is and how, because learning is such a fascinating thing for me too. It's a big part of my post-fi life is just learning. So talk about that experiment and what Ultralearning kind of helped you, how that helped you get over the hump with your music goals.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the turning point. So yeah, as you mentioned, that was last year. And we were planning a big trip on the big trip that I saw you on when we were back in the States, and we went to the mountains and did a bunch of skiing and stuff. And I knew that was coming. We were going to come over to the States in December. And yeah, I interviewed Scott maybe in August or something like that. And I was like, all right, I got 3 months lined up. We have no travel plans. We have nothing. And I'm so sick of not making progress on this project that I've been talking about for years and thinking about for decades. And I was like, I'm going to read his book. Then I'm going to get him on the podcast and just ask him all the questions that I want to know, selfishly. And I'm just going to design this Ultralearning project. And hopefully, I was always looking for like the magic bullet. Like it was always like, oh, if I read this inspirational article, that's going to get me over this hump. Or if I read this book, or it was always that. And the reason Ultralearning was so impactful to me is because it just made me put the hours in and do the work. And it boiled down, like I used a lot of the stuff he talked about in the book to like come up with the important key things that I needed to learn how to do, and then just did more of those. So rather than watching a YouTube video on mastering an album when I hadn't even written a song that I was wanting to mix, it was ridiculous. But that's what I used to waste my time doing, is like, well, I need to learn that eventually, so I'll just learn that now. And whereas Ultralearning really focused me, and the only thing that the only goal of that was to put in 25 hours a week of music stuff and hopefully make that the most impactful activities I could during those 25 hours. So I created a spreadsheet because I just have spreadsheets for everything. But each column was like a certain task, and I arranged them most important on the left and least important on the right. And then I just filled in the cells every day, just putting in how many minutes I did each of those activities. And I always tried to be as far left as I could. But obviously, like sometimes you just lost all your creative reserves, or you lost all your motivation or willpower. So I had backup stuff to fill in those gaps, but I always try to start with like the most important thing. And one of the concepts he talks about is directness. And he's like, so if you want to be a painter, then you need to spend most of your time painting.
Painting.
And if you want to be doing the thing, not, reading about color theory is probably important and things like that. But the most important thing is painting, because when you need the color theory, you can go look into that and things like that. So for me, that was just writing songs, even if they're terrible, and a lot of them were. It was just sitting down and putting in the work. So I think committing to that 3-month block where I took everything else off my plate, no Mad Fientist stuff, no trips, no social engagements, nothing. And I was like, I'm just going to see how it goes for 3 months. And maybe about 2 months into that, I wrote a song that I thought, hey, that's the style of music I want to write. Finally, it's and I think it's good enough to keep working on.
That was Adam Smasher, right?
Yeah, it was.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was it's on the album. And that was the start of it, because that was the change from, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. I don't have what it takes to do this. That was my brain. I was the math and science guy, as you said before, and I was like, just my brain doesn't do art stuff, creative stuff. And that was that helped me get over that, because I did the one, and I was like, well, if I can do one, then I can do some others. And that was the turning point. But it really, I think it just boiled down to forcing myself to put in the hours. And that's something that really came in handy for the last song on the album. So I had written 7, and 7 is technically an album. So I was like, I can put that out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to make it 8, just in case they change the rules and 7's no longer an album or something. So I had, that was October this year. That's the only thing on my to-do list of October of this year was like, okay, I'm going to write the 8th song for the album. And all the previous 7 ones felt magical, and like, I don't know where they came from. I'm surprised they happened. I was convinced I would never be able to do it again. But having learned from not only the Ultralearning experiment, the 3 months I did that, but for the rest of the time this year, I was able to just not be overwhelmed by it, which definitely would have happened last year. I would have just been overwhelmed by the task, and then I would have procrastinated, or productively procrastinated on Mad Fientist stuff or something. But instead, I was just able to say, all I have to do is put in the hours, and hopefully, learning from the past, a song will come out of that potentially. But the only focus should be putting in those hours. And sure enough, I put in tons of hours during October, and it was only near the end of October that the seed of a song started to form. And then by the end of the month, I had a full-fledged demo that is now the last song in the album. And that was huge for me, because it just showed like, okay, you just focus on the work, and then the outcome will hopefully happen eventually if you just keep working hard and focusing on the right things.
And what I love about that lesson, that this is so applicable to so many things. Like if you can learn this skill, he learned it Brandon learned it with an album and making music, but this is the exact process I try to help people with real estate investing too. It's just this big overwhelming thing to invest in real estate. And then you listen to all these podcasts and read these books, and it overwhelms you even more. And you're like, I can't do this. Like, this is intimidating. And so just what I try to do is just like get people, here is like 3 months, focus, do these things, put in the time, make yourself a schedule, and then kind of avoid the result syndrome of like, I'm going to get a result. Like, don't worry about buying a deal. Don't worry about doing any of that, because that's the irony of it, is that if you put in the time and stop focusing on the results and just focus on the process and the mastery, then the results, I mean, you don't know when they're going to come. A lot of that's out of your hands. The market could change, your own life could change, but the thing you can control, which I love, you demonstrated this, is putting in the hours. And if you do that, then it kind of tricks your brain into just saying, okay, you're a musician. Okay, you're a real estate investor. Because you're putting in the hours, you must be a real estate investor, a musician. And then the end result is you get better at it. You have mastery, and naturally results come from that.
That's it. And the changing your identity thing is so key too, because we tell ourselves these stories, and I'm not that story I told myself, I'm not a creative guy. But yeah, when you're spending 25 hours a week writing music, then you believe pretty quickly that you are a musician. Yeah. and you're absolutely right. And that's key to giving you the confidence to make decisions and eventually then push stuff out to the other people. So that's a great point, is the identity switch that comes from that consistent work is really important to actually reaching your goal. But if you focus on that end goal, like you said, it makes it a lot harder and a lot scarier, and you're a lot more tentative, I think, with your decision making potentially.
Thank you for listening to that interview with the Mad Fientist. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear from you in the comments section below. What did you think about it? Do you have any questions, any suggestions, any follow-up ideas? And if you're not subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss anything. I have new videos that come out every single Friday morning, and I think you'll enjoy some of the ones coming down the line in 2021. And if you like interviews like this, I think you'll enjoy some of my other interviews here on the channel. There's a playlist that you can see in the description of the video below, and also in just a moment in the screen above me. You can click on that to listen to more interviews with people like John Schaub, with Mr. Money Mustache, and others who will help you on your journey to financial independence. Thank you so much for being with me today on Coach Carson TV, which is all about investing in real estate, achieving financial independence, and doing more of what matters. My name's Chad Carson. You can also call me Coach, and I'll see you next time.